Hi, Will. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Certainly better than the Mariners rotation.
Ooh, well, obviously, that's why I wanted to have you. And I know you wrote about it in the Under the Knife newsletter, which is great. And if you're not subscribed to it, you should. There's a lot of cool info in there. And I just found myself reading the stuff on Oswaldo Cabrera, which we all watched. And maybe I'll ask you about that before we're done here. But how much concern should the Mariners have? It's 3 pitchers from your 5. But also, none of them are like, UCL elbow. So what do you think's going on?
Well, there's 2 things here. I want to make it clear that, losing 60% of your expected rotation is bad. I mean, there's just no way around that. It's all arm problems. They're all minor. And yes, you've got to give the medical staff some credit for catching these things early enough that they don't blow out, that they're managing the things they can manage, that they have just enough depth to get everybody back. I mean, Kirby's really, really close. Logan Gilbert is likely to go out on rehab assignment basically about the time Kirby comes in. And everything seems, not good with Miller's elbow, but a lot of times you get these, inflammations and they don't know what it is. They're treating the symptom rather than the cause. From everybody I've talked to, that doesn't seem to be the case here. This seems like they actually know what it is and they can attack it and get through it. So, you're going to have injuries in the course of a season, but minimizing those is one of the things that a medical staff doesn't often get credit for, and the Mariners should. On the other hand, this isn't just a Mariners problem. This is all of baseball. 60% of your rotation is on the shelf right now. That's bad. But nearly 25% of all Major League Baseball players are on the shelf.
Players or pitchers?
A great number of these are pitchers.
Oh, wow. So 25% in general. The Mariners are a little high right now. Eight of the 26 guys that were expected to be on the starting lineup on opening day are on the shelf right now. So almost a third. That seems, unusually high. I'm going to ask you about the position players in a minute, but just stick with the pitchers for a sec. Is this nothing more than just inevitability? I mean, we have Passan on every week, and he obviously wrote the arm, did a great job with it. Mm-hmm. He kind of makes it feel like it's just inevitable, and the Mariners have kind of been lucky, essentially, for the last few years with this rotation, but they've also thrown a lot of pitches. What do you think it's luck? Is it connected to how many pitches they've thrown? What do you think's happening?
I don't think pitch count has anything to do with it. I think we're learning more and more. Look, we've had this pitch count thing for years. When I worked at Baseball Prospectus, one of the things we did was we had something called pitcher abuse points, which, the clear thing is fatigue breaks arms. The more force you put on them, the more you're throwing in a fatigued state, the more likely something is to break. And as we've seen velocity go up, we've seen pitch counts go down, but that hasn't helped. I mean, like I said, 24.6% of all players are on the injured list, the vast majority of them pitchers. So what we're doing does not work. Is it inevitable? I don't feel like I can be that pessimistic. I don't want to go into some dystopian future where, we're just waiting for somebody to break. No, I think we can do better. I think we can do a lot better if we do things like manage workload, if we take direct measurements. We're going to have to wait a few years to get the real effects of the StatCast cameras, the kinetics cameras, the biomechanical revolution. So I do think there's hope.
What do you mean by direct measurements? What direct measurements of what?
Force on the arm.
Okay.
Driveline there in the Seattle area has the Pulse, which came from Modus, a company I worked for. You put it on the elbow, it tells you exactly how much force each and every pitch. You can do that now with cameras. You can definitely do that with the StatCast cameras, the Hawkeyes from Sony. They just bought Kinetrax, so there's even more measures. So we're learning more and more. We have more and more data, and it's going to take a while to figure it all out.
Do you think, and this is maybe a more broad question, I posed this idea the other day. It's more of a hypothesis. I can't prove this. Do you think that there is a relationship between an aggressive style of play offensively, stealing more bases, diving into more bags, playing all out aggressively all the time, and injuries to players on your team in general?
No, I don't think it has to be. I mean, the most aggressive player I remember was Ricky Henderson, and I realize Ricky Henderson is one of one, but No, I don't think you have to. I think you have to be smart about it. I don't think you can just be reckless and diving and running into walls. And I think players learn that as they mature. I mean, if you remember Bryce Harper's early career, he played like his hair was on fire. Now, he's got beautiful hair, but it's not nearly as flammable. He plays within himself, but he's had some injuries, overcame them. Tommy John surgery, a number of others. He had that ankle injury that was pretty bad. So I don't think aggression necessarily does it, but I think it has to be smart aggression. It has to be aggression with value.
Yeah, it's interesting. The two guys that kind of get held up here in Seattle are Ken Griffey Jr. and Ichiro, two guys who played the game totally differently and are in the Hall of Fame for different reasons. But Ichiro was very much, hey, I'm not going to die for everything. I'm going to try to play 162 every year, and I'm going to be very kind of cautious about it. And Junior was sort of the opposite, right? Ran headfirst into everything and probably did take a couple of productive years off of his career or game, certainly, by crashing into walls and doing all the things that made him Ken Griffey Jr. I think of it more broadly, just watching this team, and the Mariners are running a lot, and they're super aggressive. And I just have this kind of memory from 100 years ago of Tommy Harper telling me when Jacoby Ellsbury first came up, like, he'll learn. Like, you can only do this for so long before, A, the other players tell you to stop, and B, you're going to get hurt. So they'll just tell him to stop running so much.
If you can't handle it, you can't handle it. And sadly, the one way to learn is when you start breaking. The whole diving head first thing, people are like, oh, more injuries from that. No, I mean, you get some broken fingers, but now we got those oven mitts. The worst injuries come when somebody stuffs the bag and breaks an ankle, but that doesn't happen very often. I don't know that we've got any really good study that shows, sliding and diving and things do that. When you look back at Griffey, great example. I mean, Mike Trout has basically turned into Ken Griffey in terms of career path. It wasn't some wear down for him. It was his hamstrings. It was his legs just gave out. And that happens to some people. We're seeing that with Trout. His knees are shot. So how much longer is he going to play? A guy who we thought was going to be Mickey Mantle turned into, Mickey Mantle.
Last thing, just because you brought up the slide, and we saw this Oswaldo Cabrera deal just a couple days ago. It was horrifying to watch. What do you think happened there? Where do you think that goes? Yeah,
it wasn't even a slide. I mean, he dodged the tag there at the plate since he can't bowl over a guy anymore, which is good. It was the cut. He just set his foot and tried to come back to the plate, and that's not a usual motion. So maybe it was a little bit of, it's not like he's a receiver and is cutting out there. It was just one of those, he took a bad step, his cleat caught, something happened, and the bone just snapped. It's as simple as that. It was gruesome. It was painful. You saw the athletic trainer, Tim Lentich, was out there basically hugging him to hold him down from A, seeing it, and B, screaming in pain. It was handled perfectly. They did everything right. You could see the two medical staffs working together. The ambulance guys were actually watching and got out there quickly. The funny thing is, he's probably going to be back, probably August.
That's crazy.
Bones heal. Little Timmy falls off his skateboard. Nobody thinks, oh no, he's going to lose that arm. So he'll come back. Question is how much soft tissue damage is. And the really disturbing thing was the story afterwards, where Aaron Judge came out and was comforting him, and he was like, "Judgy, did I score?" And I was like, "Judgy? That's the best nickname we can come up with."
Yeah, we got to come up with something better than that.
Sake.
Even AJ would be better than that. I mean, something has got to be better than Judgy.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping we were getting out of the A-Rod, J-Lo era of just shortening things. I mean, but we used to have nicknames. We had players named Dizzy and Dummy and the Wild Horse of the Osage. I know you can't just call somebody that in normal conversation, but for God's sakes, Judgy?
All right, so as I let you go here, of the 3 pitcher injuries the Mariners are dealing with, if I understand you right, none of them should really be long-term cause for concern. They're just a matter of, hey, you got to get these guys back.
Yeah, you got to get these guys back. You can't go that far down the depth chart. The Dodgers right now are 13 down their expected depth chart. A lot of those guys are coming back from Tommy John surgery. They had to be rushed to the majors because they ran out of pitchers, and yet they're winning. And Seattle's doing the same. What you have to do, I hate the phrase "next man up," but you have to have planned for this. The front office has to have people in place. You have to have 8, 9 starters. You have to have a bullpen that's resilient enough to shorten up sometimes, or even take a game occasionally. So I think the Mariners are in a pretty good position in a really bad division.
Love it. Thanks, man. There's Will Carroll, and you got to follow him and certainly sign up for the newsletter if you're interested in the very latest in injury and injury technology as well. He's a great follow and just a great person. I'm always happy to have him on the show. We're going to